Next session, Driving Operation Excellence with the Power of Compute on Cloud. Welcome to a special session on driving operation excellence in the cloud. In this session, Intel will cover how to build data excellence with Intel and AWS by developing, building, and leveraging the right infrastructure that works for organizations. Learn how to manage cost and complexity, accelerate business outcomes, and enable scaling to meet current and future computing requirements. We have with us Akanksha Balani, Regional Alliance Head for Intel, to lead partnership with Team Amazon for Asia Pacific and Japan. Welcome, Akanksha.
Thank you very much. Hi, everyone. A good morning and a good afternoon to everybody. As she mentioned, my name is Akanksha, and I lead the Alliance for AWS for the region of APJ for Intel. I'm also the global AI as well as HPC lead. It's my absolute pleasure to be here, and thank you so much, GovInsider and AWS, for involving Intel and having us be part of this amazing program of the Festival of Innovation. So really excited to speak to all of you. And as she mentioned, the flavor of the session today will be to talk a little bit more about what operational excellence with the power of data, with the power of cloud, as well as the power of compute can actually accomplish for us to solve real world challenges. With us in the industry, time and time again, what we recognize is when we have a technology that's accessible, that's amiable, as well as the barriers of its adoption, if they are low, this gives rise to a tremendous amount of demand. And through that demand rise various business models, various usage models, and ultimately a lot of opportunity. Cloud computing is one such technology. And what we've recognized is that AWS continue to bend the curve to what seems possible. What we've also recognized is while cloud computing needs to get into a realm of mainstreaming, what is really required are three things that really bring Intel and the compute power capability onto the table. The first is performance. The second is performance. And the third is performance. So the combination of driving the best performance on the cloud is one of the ways in which this technology can actually bring opportunity to us in the government, in the country, nationally, as well as across the world. Another such technology is the world of AI. I think all of us are grappling with trying to figure out what is the best and the strongest use cases across the technology of AI. So the rest of my session today will talk to you about how compute, how cloud, as well as driving AI for your data insight is actually going to help us solve our business challenges as well as our national challenges and drive to the next level of operational excellence. So let's get started. My agenda today will be to walk you through the world of data that we see today. Then we're also going to touch on the relationship that we have with AWS and what we're doing with them to power the cloud and drive compute excellence. I will also touch on what a data-centric portfolio should look like when you're trying to build for AI in your infrastructure and in your environment. And I'll also touch on various use cases that, especially in the public sector domain, have actually seen how collaborations, partnerships, as well as investing in infrastructure have actually driven to solving real world problems and impacting lives as we speak. And then last but not the least, I'll also give some indicators on how we can collaboratively learn, engage, and innovate your AI with Intel as well as AWS. If you see my slide here today, let me talk to you a little bit about the world of data that we live in. There is an actual Forrester survey that says that by the year 2023, there will be 50 billion devices and 500 million sensors smartly connected over the internet. Most of these devices, especially on the machine side, 40% of them will be communicating machine to machine. This gives us the impetus of the crazy amount of deluge of data that we're sitting on today. This data needs to be analyzed using the power of AI as well as machine learning to provide deeper and productive business and societal insights that have never been stronger than today. Now let me touch on the various segments as well as industries that have been impacted by data, that have been impacted by the possibility of AI, and the types of use cases that have come about. You could see that across the various adoptions, from an FSI perspective to an industry perspective, and I know that most of the audience here belongs to public sector or government. We've got multiple use cases like the smart cities or identifying the best ways to digitize citizens. It's really about making sure that we've identified the best use cases where you've got the best access to data as well as analytical capability to data that's going to help us get productive mechanisms as well as infrastructure investment, TCO, for the AI that you're trying to build. So when you're identifying use cases for AI, you want to make sure that you have three factors that you actually keep in mind. Number one is obviously the availability of use cases. What can you do with your data that's actually going to help you solve for your nation, for your country? The second is the quick reward for adoption of this use case. How quickly will you see the results coming in? And what are the end results that you're going to see for the actual use case that you're trying to implement? And the third is really about the purchasing power. Do you think that you'll be able to siphon and allocate budget towards the adoption of this use case or the system towards the use cases? So as a government official, as a participant in the public sector industry, or even if you're as part of the enterprise, you want to keep in mind these three factors that I talked about. And you shall see that, with the availability of data and capability of cloud as well as AI, we'll be able to actually transform the industry and touch the lives of almost every citizen in this world. While the world is moving because the data is upon us, while the industries are changing, Intel also as an organization is changing and moving from a PC-centric company into a data-centric organization. So much so that if you see the numbers in front of you, you could see that 93% of the world's data runs actually on Intel. We have 81 million plus Intel Xeon processors that have been deployed over the past 3 years. Of course, the pandemic environment has not been an exception to this increase in adoption, but it's really helped to recognize how the compute and silicon actually does fuel the need for moving your industry or your business objectives in the right direction. You could see that we have over 20 plus years of delivering incredible performance from one generation of silicon to the next. We're also number one nearly on all early commercial vRAN deployments, and most of them are, and all of them are on Intel. And 50% of our core network workloads that are virtualized by 2020 are running on Intel Xeon processors. And so what we're trying to do is trying to figure out ways in which we can build stronger and more scalable data centricity across our processors, and also have them available for our customers, for our partners, to make sure that you are actually taking advantage of the performance and the optimization capability of our infrastructure. Moving on to the next agenda item that I'd highlighted is, what is Intel doing with AWS? And this question has been asked quite often. And many of you might or might not know, but Intel actually customizes its silicon to be made available on Amazon's EC2 platform. We actually share more than a 16-year relationship, engineer-engineer relationship, that is reflected with our shared customer obsession, where we constantly iterate and listen to what AWS's customers, as well as AWS's partners want, delivering that in an optimized solution built upon custom silicon SKUs. AWS and Intel have developed a variety of specialized instances for high performance computing, for big data, for AI, as well as IoT, to meet the needs of the organizations today and into the future. If you look at the circle of services that you're probably playing around on AWS, whether it's storage, whether it's compute, whether it's migrations on your database or analytics side, or it's your hybrid cloud experience, or it's AI or IoT, there is Intel that is actually powering the compute instances under the hood. And if you look to your right, it actually shows you the variety and the availability of the various products that we have available based on the need of your application on AWS. We have over 250 plus Intel-based instances that is actually second to none from any other compute provider that really power the capability and performance of cloud on AWS. You could actually see that AWS EC2 instances that are powered by the Intel processors have the largest breadth, the global reach, and the availability of compute instances across AWS geographies, which is basically 24 regions as well as 76 availability zones. Whether it's deploying hybrid cloud with AWS Outpost, SAP HANA with high memory instances, or high performance computing with our C5N or our Z1D instances, Intel's architecture is at the heart of AWS EC2 instances. Now let me walk you through the actual infrastructure that you might want to keep in mind when you are developing for your organization and you want to try and drive a holistic experience or a tangible AI system in your infrastructure. This is something that I like to actually communicate to our customers and partners when I sit down with them, is that when you're building for AI and when you're applying for AI, it's really not one department or two departments that are involved. It's actually the entire set of people that are involved in the actual running of the organization that are actually part of building an AI solution. So whether it's the IT developers, or it's the programmers, or it's the library developers, or your data scientists, or your CIOs or CTOs or the departments of IT, it's actually a collaborative decision. And going back to those three factors that I highlighted, making sure that you have the right use cases and the right value of applying for AI on the cloud, you will be able to actually make sure that you're building a holistic solution for AI. And basically to that point, Intel actually has a full stack of an AI portfolio that requires for us as well as our partners to deliver complete solutions from data center to the edge to, of course, the cloud. And Intel has a plethora of hardware and software that actually make AI happen on the cloud. And I will touch on each layer, and this actually will speak to each one of you in your organization driving those business titles that I just mentioned. So from the hardware side, from the bottoms up, Intel has a comprehensive product portfolio spanning general purpose compute to accelerated compute that provides customers on the cloud a variety of compute capabilities that support the right optimization to seamlessly build as well as deploy AI applications at scale. Intel Xeon scalable processors actually accelerate AI on your CPU instances. We actually have DL boost capabilities, VNNI boost capabilities, vector neural network instruction sets, as well as the AVX512 instruction sets, which are built into our CPU instance chips. And when you're starting to build your journey for AI, you can start your journey with your general purpose compute instances, as well as the accelerated compute instances. This actually makes sure that we have a comprehensive environment. We have the lowest TCO, and we're also working with you on driving the strongest and the fastest performance. In addition to our Xeon scalable processors, which are the CPU instances, we also have the Habana Gaudi processors, which are actually the GPU-based accelerated instances for training to boost AI as well as machine learning on AWS. Moving upwards from our hardware layer is the foundational layer. Not only do we have our optimizations on our hardware, but we actually have our software ecosystem with Intel's optimizations into our Python libraries. We have the data analytics accelerator libraries. We have the DNN version of our math kernel libraries, as well as the CLD DNN libraries, which actually sit on top of your CPU instances and make sure that your instances are stronger and most optimized for your AI use case. And then if you move up the next layer, for all of your data scientists that are working in your frameworks domain, Intel actually collaborates with all the open source frameworks and provides its own optimizations. Hence, that's something that you wouldn't need to worry about. It's optimization that has been plugged and played from an Intel perspective that will be made available to you either on the cloud or on the marketplace at AWS. And above that is obviously the various toolkits, which are actual AMIs or APIs to those specific Intel-based instances that you're building your AI platforms for. And these toolkits are amazing when you're trying to use products like AWS SageMaker, like AWS Recognition, Comprehend, and DLAMI. Most of these toolkits would help you optimize for those AWS services that are helping you build your AI use case in your region or in your organization. And this, of course, is very scalable and streamable. And so you could cut this and use these portfolio of products on EC2, on AWS EC2, across the various use cases as well as sectors in your government domain. So as I mentioned earlier, Intel has a plethora and a large variety and availability to help you meet your workload needs. While AWS continues to accelerate the pace of innovation, in the past 11 years, by 2017, a single instance has grown from 70 instances to 250 plus instances today. And so the rapid growth based on your application need, based on your business need, and based on your workload need has actually seen the innovation at this rapid pace. And if you look at the range of AWS powered instances that are powered by Intel's technology, we work together to design instances, be they compute instances, memory optimized instances, storage optimized ones, to ensure demanding enterprise as well as government applications that can run in an optimized as well as scalable manner on the cloud. The goal at the end of the day is one architecture from edge to cloud so that any optimization we take into the cloud can benefit at scale. And while I've walked you through, the plethora of products, the optimization capabilities, how you can achieve the strongest performance on AI on cloud through Intel, there's many use cases where we can partner with you as government bodies to make AI mainstream and performant. Intel has worked with global customers as well as regional customers and partners to build strong, tangible AI to solve your challenges today. So and we've gone through this journey along with AWS by jointly investing in POCs, by driving strong training programs, to driving co-engineering motions for your organization, for your business need. Intel and AWS have worked with multiple customers and partners on the journey to business as well as national success, driving innovations on AI. And so for all of you AI developers, to get a flavor of our experience, we've actually designed various jams, various contests, various workshops that you can get access to in my link at the end of my slides that will give you not only technology in your hands and get you access and skills towards it, but we also have 16 optimized software libraries and frameworks on AWS Marketplace. And so if you just went to AWS Marketplace and typed Intel, you'll actually be able to get access to those optimized libraries and frameworks. I'm now going to talk you through some great customer stories, as well as some great journeys that we've taken on the public sector space with AWS, as well as our elite customers. And these are very APJ. What I'm going to do is really highlight on very APAC-centric success stories, which hopefully will give you guys a stronger vision on how obviously compute, obviously Intel and AWS, but cloud and AI can actually drive a difference in your national strategy, whether it's agriculture, whether it's healthcare, whether it's skilling or education, or just national development for safety and security of our country. So the first one that I'd like to allude to is the work that we did with Fractal AI of building a national data platform to analyze data and make decisions related to our pandemic, situational awareness of COVID-19 disease progression for the government of India. The solution was based on Intel processors, delivered more than 100 dashboards using anonymized government as well as public data sets with hundreds of thousands of COVID-19 data points, various machine learning models for disease transmission, prediction, citizen mobility analytics, situational awareness of disease spread, as well as hospital care readiness were built to anticipate sustainable recovery scenarios in industry zones nationally. And I know that Singapore has also applied various platforms to help us do so, but this is the actual capability of cloud as well as compute as well as AI. Another great use case is the work that we did on education with Career Launcher with the Ministry of Education. Intel and AWS worked on keeping education uninterrupted during COVID, with schools becoming online. Using the AWS EC2 instances featuring our second generation Xeon processors, we drove 12% faster platform delivery across over 1 million students across India using the platform of Project Aspiration built by Career Launcher that was powered by Intel as well as AWS. Another really amazing use case is the work that we did with University of Sydney in Australia. We partnered together with the University of Sydney Genomics group as well as Intel and AWS to save Australia's most threatened species, including the koalas, the orange-bellied parrots, and the Tasmanian devil. Researchers at the University of Sydney democratized data and drove machine learning models on genomic sequencing, again, on Intel as well as AWS platforms and instances. Another amazing work that we did was with collaboration of University of Adelaide in Australia, where the platform that we've built today actually analyzes 3 terabytes of genomics data in hours, analyses of plant breeding and acclimatization to the study of the diversity of wheat. Researchers analyzed 48 wheat exomes and 18 whole barley genomes, totaling almost 3 terabytes of data on a daily basis. This is the actual capability of cloud as well as compute that actually is driving amazing success, not only for analyses, but for research as well as future development of the country. Another amazing use case is the work that we did with CSIRO, where we actually saved lives and mitigated bushfires in Australia. Australia's CSIRO research agency was able to increase by 60x the number of parallel wildfire simulations with 98% utilization of large EC2 C5 Intel-based instances that actually helped mitigate bushfires and identify the places where there would be bushfires to make sure that the country as well as the cities were moving towards safety. So while we have, various public sector use cases, there's also a great demonstration of how AI can actually impact the lives of every citizen on Earth. And what I'd love to talk to you now about is the work that we did with Thorn on making sure that we have a law enforcement use case for identifying child sex trafficking victims that are faster on AWS as well as Intel, and hence actually saving the lives, as well as identifying these children that were impacted and kidnapped because of sex trafficking. So the project basically was driven by the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, where we had over 480,000 images of missing children in our database. And using compute capabilities of Xeon, as well as the EC2 instances, as well as AI services like Amazon Recognition, MemSQL, as well as SageMaker, we were able to bring a faster analyses and more images of children to be matched and hence be saved as part of this journey. I'd love for us to have Ashton Couture, the lead and the owner of Thorn, an NGO, to talk about his experience on this platform. Let's have the video, please.
Thorn was founded a little over 5 years ago to drive technology innovation to fight child sexual exploitation.
I brought it up to a friend of mine who said, oh, no, it's happening like here, like right here. And I was in Los Angeles at the time, and he said, within any 3 blocks from where we're standing, I was inside of a synagogue, he said, within any 3 blocks of where we're standing, you can go buy somebody. And I was floored by the notion of that.
We have leveraged multiple AWS services and products, including services that leverage Intel processors. And these have helped us move more quickly, helped us deliver solutions that are effective and scaled globally. They allow us to take massive amounts of data and turn it into action to find children faster and stop abuse around the world.
Early on, we started working with AWS in the launch and development of Spotlight. We actually were able to launch the tool within about a 4-month period and able to quickly get out a test version of the tool into the hands of the officers on the front line so that they could quickly tell us what's working and what's not.
We are using Amazon EC2 instances for infrastructure, and what that's really allowed us to do as a nonprofit is allow for them to scale up and down whenever we need to, if we're seeing a volume or a fluctuation or we need to expand or scale with new functionality that we have in the application.
We are also able to quickly implement machine learning models without having to worry about building an entire infrastructure.
We went from 100 officers to thousands of officers within about a year's time. What we hear from those officers that use Spotlight on a regular basis is that it can decrease their investigative time by up to 65%.
AWS has been really instrumental for us, is kind of growing with us as our products mature, to move really quickly and focus on functionality, whether it's using AWS SQS for queuing or creating a scalable ETL system using AWS Lambda. But also later on, as these products mature and we take on more logic on our end and deploying directly to EC2 instances, like the C5 instance that is powered by Intel Xeon processors.
The difference that technology has made to speed up investigations has been substantial. We know over the last 2 years, there's been 21,000 human trafficking investigations in which Spotlight has been reported to assist in, more than 6,000 juveniles, so that's about 8 children a day.
AWS is a critical partner in the fight against online child sexual abuse. Partnering with AWS allows us to innovate and move quickly in these instances. It allows us to scale up, to scale down, to move globally, and also to bring on more partners very rapidly with kind of minimal incremental cost. And that all of that combined works on behalf of these kids.
that actually shows you the impact of AI. Well, thanks everybody. I know that we're over on the hour. What I would love to leave you with is a summary. Ensure that we would love to work with you guys to try and drive the strongest impact for AI. The first is what I'd like to leave you with is the fact that Intel and AWS are collaborating very tightly to develop best-in-class end-user experiences for a national success. We have a plethora of instances on EC2 that will provide you the strongest TCO for your applications as well as your workloads. And there are existing solutions for deployment for successful outcomes that are targeted towards the highest performance as well as the lowest TCO. Thank you so much for listening. I hope the session was valuable. And look forward to talking with you either on LinkedIn or do send feedback on how Intel and AWS can collaborate with you on your cloud as well as your AI journey. Thank you.